Hello and welcome to Physical Therapy, a movie podcast. We are here every week talking movies inspired by the world of physical media. My name is Kurt.
My name is Sam.
We're also joined by our producer, Kimberly. Good morning, Kimberly.
Good morning. Top of the morning.
Today, we're going to be talking about the recent 4K releases of Kill Bill, Volumes 1 and 2. We'll get to that in a little bit. But first, Samuel, let's talk about our week in movies since we've last spoken. What have you watched?
I've watched a couple things at home and I've seen a couple things in theaters. Are you familiar with Hundreds of Beavers?
Yes, I'm familiar.
You've not seen it yet?
No.
Okay, I was familiar with it. A smaller partner label, Vinegar Syndrome, put out the Blu-ray, I think around Black Friday last year. I was able to see it at the Hollywood, and this movie is phenomenal.
Oh, shit. Okay.
It's my favorite movie that I've seen in
Wow.
like a long time.
Wow. Okay.
A long time. It is like a 90-minute Looney Tunes episode. It's shot in like the northern woods of Wisconsin, probably on like a minuscule budget. And it's about a fur trapper who is trying to trap these beavers, but all the beavers are like grown adults in beaver costumes. It's black and white. It is so funny. There's little to no dialogue. It very much is inspired by, like I said, Looney Tunes and movies of the 30s. And I would say it takes a lot from Cannibal the Musical, the Trey Parker, Matt Stone movie.
Okay.
I loved this movie. I saw it alone at like 2 p.m. at the Hollywood. And it was just, I was like cackling to myself the entire time.
Was there a crowd?
Yeah, it was great to see with a crowd.
Yeah, I was going to ask. There's a Blu-ray of it, I know, from Vinegar Syndrome's partner label. Looks like Cartoona.
Yeah, but I don't think it's in stock anymore.
There's a standard in stock.
It is. Okay, because that's been going out of stock like pretty frequently. So I watched that in theaters. I also saw Flow, which I liked.
I want to see that so bad.
Yeah, I want to see that too.
At home, I watched my Studio Canal 4K release of U571.
Finally, at last.
Let me tell you guys, U571 still rules.
Oh my God.
Ooh, okay.
25 years later, U571 still rules.
Damn.
Billy Paxton, Harvey Keitel, Matthew McConaughey, John Bon Jovi.
Oh my God.
Come on, dog. This movie is just like a pretty silly World War II movie, especially 2 years after Private Ryan.
Yeah.
I had this movie on VHS originally, and I don't think I had seen it since then. It was a blast, like a total blast.
I never owned it. I definitely saw it in the theater.
Well, dude, especially if you have like a nice sound system now. I watched it again at like 3 p.m. There's a scene in which the Nazis drop like 25 depth charges on this submarine, and it's all bass. My apartment was like rattling. It was incredible. I had
3
such
p.m.
a good time. I had such a good time.
Somebody's walking by just going, what the hell is going on in that place?
And then I watched my Blu-ray copy of Umbrella's Boiling Point.
Oh, okay.
The Wesley Snipes, Dennis Hopper movie.
What's up with Boiling Point?
Dog, Boiling Point sucks.
Oh, no.
Oh.
This is one of those movies that Sam and I talk each other into buying.
Yeah.
Sight unseen. Because what could go wrong?
And the Dennis Hopper performance in it is like actually awesome, but he's got this really weird like strawberry blonde hair in it the whole time, and he like loves ballroom dancing. It's very strange. It's very strange.
Wow, what a quirk.
It's just a boring movie. And I was reading about it more, and apparently the original cut was way more focused on Dennis Hopper, but because Wesley Snipes was like such a rising star, they wanted to make it more of like a Wesley Snipes action movie. So the pacing is really weird and the cutting's kind of strange. I would argue there's one action scene in the entire movie, and it's just not very well done. It's like 90 minutes, and it's one of those things where it's like, this would feel like it's been going on for, 2.5 hours.
Brutal. Well, glad that's sitting for me waiting.
Oh boy.
Are you guys familiar with a documentary from 1986? It's like 15 minutes long, called Heavy Metal Parking Lot.
No.
It's an incredible piece of history. It is 2 kind of guerrilla filmmakers went to a parking lot in Maryland, I believe, to shoot teenagers going into a Judas Priest concert.
Oh, fun.
I saw this movie when we were in college, Kurt. I took like a music doc class and we showed it, and I was not a Judas Priest fan at the time. I'm a huge Judas Priest fan now, so watching it again was hilarious and phenomenal. And it's just all these 17 to 25-year-olds like drinking beer in a parking lot and be like, Judas Priest fucking rules, man. and it's like 15 minutes. So I watched that last night. Again, a Vinegar Syndrome partner label put it out on Blu-ray a couple of years ago.
Does it have more on the disc than just a 15-minute documentary?
Yeah. So there's Heavy Metal Parking Lot. So that's 86. So 10 years later, the same two dudes go and shoot Neil Diamond Parking Lot.
Wow.
Then there's a Harry Potter parking lot. And then like a bunch of other little like vignette documentaries on this disc. There's a lot of content on the disc, honestly.
Cool.
But a lot of really weird, kind of like almost like CBS news segment, little slice of life docs. Just about like a guy who repairs pinball machines, like a guy who has the largest pornography collection in North America. It's a really weird collection of docs, but I explored that disc last night, and that's really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It reminds me of John Wilson,
Yeah.
like how you kind of pitched it.
Yeah, without a doubt. I highly recommend it.
That's so cool. I didn't know that existed. That's fun.
What about you? What have you guys checked out?
We went to the theater and saw Heart Eyes on Valentine's Day.
What'd you think?
I thought it was fun.
Dude, the first kill in the cidery.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. I giggled.
I really like Mason Gooding. I'm always happy to see him.
Oh yeah, he's great.
He's so good.
He was really good in that too.
Yeah.
Like his pacing and his delivery is like, it's very silly.
He's really funny. So we enjoyed that. I also raided my unwatched shame pile collection.
Nice.
I feel like this week I finally had some time and knocked a bunch out, which was fun. I watched a few from Vinegar Syndrome, Southern Comfort. Have you seen that, Sam?
Okay, so I've seen it, I think, once, and I also own it. It's Walter Hill.
Yeah, Walter Hill directed it, and it's about, they're like National Guard soldiers who are being trained like in the swamps in, I don't know, Louisiana or something, and they're on like a training mission, and they have guns, but they don't have ammunition, they just have blanks, and they run into some like Cajun hunters.
Yeah.
They've stolen their canoes, or borrowed, these soldiers have, and they run into these Cajun hunters, and one of the soldiers in training like fires blanks at them in a kind of prank way. And then the rest of the movie is them getting hunted down by these hunters and having to like fight back without ammunition. And it's pretty insane, this movie. But I had a good time.
Yeah, totally. I need to revisit it.
You know, it's got a lot to say, I think, about Vietnam, and good cast. It's just kind of a strange premise.
Is Powers Booth the lead?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
Powers Booth, Keith Carradine.
Yeah.
Fred Ward's in it.
Oh, hell yeah.
It rocks. I liked that. I also watched Sliver.
Okay, so I watched this too.
From Vinegar Syndrome. This is like an early 90s erotic thriller with Sharon Stone, Tom Berenger, and William Baldwin, about a woman who moves into an apartment building in New York City where a murder has happened in her unit. The woman living there before, who looked a lot like her, is killed.
Yeah, you see the murder like the first scene.
Yeah.
She's thrown from her balcony.
And it's pretty quickly revealed that every room in this complex is under surveillance from like a hidden camera. You don't know who it is, but someone is watching all the tenants of this building in their most intimate moments. And I don't know what else to say about this movie.
You liked this movie more than I did. I was bored out of my skull watching.
Really?
This
You were
movie.
bored?
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically like a love triangle between Sharon Stone and these two men, and one of them may be a murderer.
Yeah, but the thing is like she doesn't have chemistry with either of them. And I love Tom Berenger, but I don't know what he's doing in this movie. And that Baldwin cannot act to save his life, dog.
I loved it.
I watched it with a friend and she just straight up fell asleep.
These Vinegar Syndrome releases are so nice too. They're like unbelievable special edition box sets. They're gorgeous.
I don't think I like this movie, but I think I'm keeping it because the case is so like, it's just very nice.
It's incredible. Looks amazing.
Looks amazing.
But a movie I had never heard of. And we were kind of joking with Drew, who's been on our show many times. When Vinegar Syndrome announced it, we all bought it and we're kind of laughing at ourselves for buying it. And I was like, what am I doing? I don't need Sliver. And I had never heard of it, would never have heard of it otherwise, and had a blast. Just a perfect night.
Big old Sliverhead these days.
Yeah. Kim and I watched Nosferatu on 4K, which just came out. She had not seen it. Looks great. Sounds great. I feel exactly how I felt when I saw it in the theater, in that it is so well done on every level, but I find it kind of boring.
Okay.
Especially the second half. And the last one I'll mention is last night we had friends over, about like 9 people.
Jesus, and you're in the Marty Max?
Yeah.
Our little screening room.
It was the most people we've ever had in there, and it was tight.
Fire capacity.
Yeah.
We watched Vinegar Syndrome's 4K of Showgirls.
Had people seen it before?
3 people had not.
Wow.
And my God, Showgirls rules.
It is.
Showgirls is incredible.
Jaw on the floor watch like the entire time.
What did she call Versace?
Versace.
For a while. It's like
Yeah.
a very long time of Versace being said. Oh, it's so perfect.
Have you checked out anything on this disc? I've watched this disc, I think 3 times already.
And I don't think I've ever watched any special features or anything.
Yeah.
It's an incredible looking disc, though.
Oh, it's unbelievable. And I think you and I both have the special edition version from Vinegar Syndrome, which is just, it's like the most beautifully packaged 4K I think I have. So that's always a treat. It's just a fascinating tone, that movie.
It's so weird.
I've never really done my research to find out kind of Paul Verhoeven's perspective on the whole thing, but it just feels like they were taking everything so seriously and it just doesn't work. So it's the funniest movie ever until moments where it's just not funny at all. And
yeah, there's a lot of really messed up stuff that happens in this movie.
Yeah. And like, it, I guess, makes sense if you're thinking about someone making like a hardcore drama. So this movie, Drew, again, showed Kim and I on Laserdisc, and I had never seen it. A few years ago, we did that. And then Sam, you told me about this Vinegar Syndrome release. So this was kind of a physical media discovery of mine within the last couple of years. But now I can't imagine life without Showgirls, you know?
Hell yeah, man.
I think about it all the time.
It's an incredible classic.
Okay, Sam, it is time to confess our sins. What have you purchased? What has arrived on physical media since last we spoke?
I've not had anything arrive, but what I did purchase, which I wasn't really planning on getting anything for a minute, but then the Don Hertzfeldt animated movies came back in stock on his website. So for anybody who doesn't know, Don Hertzfeldt is a independent animator. His biggest, like most well-known thing is that Rejected short film that you can find on YouTube with like the "my spoon is too big" guy and the banana that walks in and says like "I am a banana." Do you know what I'm talking about at all, Kurt?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. He has 2 feature lengths. One is called World of Tomorrow and the other is called It's Such a Wonderful Day. It's Such a Beautiful Day.
Incredible.
Incredible films. Like incredible films.
I haven't seen the former.
That one's a bit newer, and it's come out in like 3 parts, like It's Such a Wonderful Day did. Which one is it? It's Such a Beautiful Day?
I think that's what it's called, yeah.
Yeah.
Criterion Channel had that for a while.
The Blu-rays are on sale on his website, and they were out of stock for a very, very long time. And I was on Reddit, on the boutique Blu-ray page. Somebody was like, hey, these are back in stock, just so everybody knows. And laying in my bed, scooped both of them up right then and there. These are movies that I've had on DVD that I've wanted to upgrade for a very long time. So I was really excited to get this, honestly. I didn't think I was ever going to because I just didn't know if he was going to print more of them. But I cannot wait. Incredibly strange and cool style of animation. If you're interested in it at all, you should watch the special features on a disc if you can find one, because the way that he animates is really special and insanely time consuming. And I highly recommend It's Such a Beautiful Day. It is like one of the saddest, most heart-wrenching, heartfelt things I've ever seen, honestly.
Damn, great answer. Do you know what the packaging is like on these?
Like in what way?
Like I'm looking at their website now. You know, it gives you an indication of kind of the artwork, but is it a standard like jewel case?
From what I've seen, I'm pretty sure it's just standard Blu-ray cases.
Yeah, you've got me intrigued here, Sam. God.
Are they still in stocks?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, you can get both of them for like a discounted rate instead of buying each of them separately.
Yep. Anything else?
I've been pretty good lately. I'm trying to keep to my wait till sales mentality.
That's going well, your New Year's resolution, waiting till sales?
It's going fine. You know, there's good days and bad days. There's days where you're laying in bed a little sick and then you see that the Don Hertzfeldt Blu-rays are back in stock and you buy those. But for the most part,
Yeah, but those aren't going on sale. Nobody's going to have that.
yeah, exactly. Like there's some Kino titles that I really want to pick up that I just haven't been lately because I'm waiting patiently. Kino, if you're listening, please have a sale soon.
Is there not a sale on Kino, at least on Amazon right now? It seems like a lot of stuff is on sale.
To be honest, I try so hard to not buy anything off Amazon.
Why? They're such good people. All right, well, that leads into my confessions, I guess.
What you got? What'd you buy, like 600 movies?
I bought a couple, but I also had like a helicopter drop a crate from both Diabolic and Vinegar Syndrome from past purchases, pre-orders. I wish they had spaced them out a little bit for the sake of this podcast.
Dude, that was 2 weeks ago for me.
There were kind of like half off prices, it seemed, on some Kino 4Ks. I got Play Misty for Me, a like early Clint Eastwood directed horror thriller.
I've never seen this.
I don't remember it very well, but I remember it being good.
Cool.
I also got Sidney Lumet's Murder on the Orient Express, the Agatha Christie adaptation, with it's just like an all-star cast in the 70s, including like Sean Connery's in there and others. But I have always been intrigued by it. I like murder mysteries, I like trains, and I like 4K discs, and I like Sidney Lumet, and I like buying movies I've never seen.
Wow, dude. Right up your alley.
And then, yeah, I just got like a crate from Diabolic that included a bunch of Arrow titles, Inglourious Bastards, Usual Suspects, The Cell, which we talked about, and then Cure, the horror film, which Eureka, I believe, just did a 4K of.
But Criterion has it out on just Blu-ray, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. We should do that because I have that Criterion Blue.
Cure is awesome.
Okay. I've never seen it.
And then Vinegar Syndrome, I finally got Virtuosity.
Oh, no.
Starring Russell Crowe and Denzel Washington, which I've never seen. I did just listen to an interview with Denzel Washington where the journalist brought up Virtuosity, and I believe Denzel's response to choosing to do that film was, he literally said like that, I did that to pay tuition for my kids.
Yeah. Good on him, man.
Yeah. Can't wait. And then in that order, I got Cloak and Dagger, which is something Drew turned me onto that sounds really awesome.
So I have the Cloak and Dagger release from them. That's like the Showgirls release.
Yeah. They didn't have that anymore.
Yeah.
What's the premise of it? It's like...
No idea. It's like a kid, like a guy comes out of a video game or something. Or maybe I've totally made that up. I don't know. But isn't it like a conspiracy theory movie with a kid?
With his mother dead and his father busy working, 11-year-old Davy spends his time immersed in video games, often dreaming up espionage stories.
Boom.
Featuring an imaginary spy, Jack Flack. When Davy sees the murder of an FBI agent, the dying man hands him an Atari video game cartridge with military secrets. No one believes his story, and Davy is forced to go on the run, escaping from attempts on his life with Flack's guidance.
Dude.
This movie sounds crazy, and it stars our man Henry Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
From E.T. and Psycho 4.
And that Alaska Airlines flight that I was on with him.
Oh, yeah. Kim, how are you doing?
I'm struggling right now.
Christ.
This is like deep nerd moment. I can't.
Dude, Cloak and Dagger sounds awesome.
Yeah, obviously it sounds awesome. Can't wait to see that. And then last but not least,
Oh my God, these confessions, there's so much.
based on our friend Sammy Smart telling me that she loves the movie Freeway, I bought the 2-pack of Freeway 1 and 2 on Vinegar Syndrome.
Please tell us the subtitle of Freeway 2.
Do you know it off the top of your head?
It's like Confessions of a Trick Daddy.
Freeway 2, Confessions of a Trick Baby.
So close.
Good God, what are we doing?
I don't know, man.
Any announcements you want to talk about, Sam?
A couple I just want to highlight really quick. A wish of mine came true. Lethal Weapon 1 is getting a studio release.
Yep.
I think it's going to be a very similar package to the Nightmare on Elm Street release that Warner Brothers / New Line did last year.
This is like a 4K slip sleeve inside of a bigger package.
Yeah, and it's a steel book inside of a bigger package, which again, we know my opinion on steel books, but I like them more when there's another case surrounding them.
Yeah, for sure. But this is UK only right now.
Is it? Well,
Yeah.
you know. But it's a 4K disc, so it will be region free.
Yeah. It's just pricier. I'm assuming they're going to do a standard one.
Yep.
Similar to Nightmare on Elm Street.
But you know what's nice about these studio releases that Warner Brothers is doing in the UK is that they're like the same size as the Arrow big box ones.
Oh, cool. I've never seen that Nightmare one in person. You really liked it, right?
Yeah, I really liked it a lot. And Drew wished for Night of the Juggler at one point, which Kino just announced that they were coming out on a 4K. I've never seen this movie. I don't really know about it, but it sounds awesome.
Wish is coming true left and right.
Dude, they're listening.
Here's one of mine that came true that I'm a little conflicted about. Criterion confirmed essentially a 4K of The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, the Jacques Demy movie, musical. One of the things I love about this movie the most is the colors, and their 4K, as far as I know, is not in HDR or Dolby Vision, and that really breaks my heart. It feels like the biggest missed opportunity of all time.
It's just so lame that they do that, dude.
I'll probably still buy it, but I'm disappointed.
Another one that I'm super excited about is Umbrella's release of Wake and Fright, which is an notorious Australian like grindhouse movie that I've never seen. Alamo Drafthouse, when they had a physical media arm, they put it out. And that Blu-ray has been out of print for a while. So Umbrella is releasing this movie on 4K, and I've always wanted to see it. I'm stoked. Honestly, dude, Umbrella's quickly becoming one of my favorite labels.
Is there a standard version of this? The one that I've seen is like humongous, comes with a t-shirt, comes with a pint glass, comes with...
It's like a bar towel, a bottle opener. I believe there is, yes.
Okay, cool.
I don't think I'll be buying the... Although maybe I will. Maybe I'll just use the bar towel at work. That'd be awesome.
We are gathered here today.
Dearly beloved,
we are gathered here today to talk Kill Bill. This is Quentin Tarantino's 2003/2004 revenge epic starring Uma Thurman. It came out on 4K in January, along with Jackie Brown. These are like studio releases. We'll get into the details of the release in a little while, but Sam, I'm curious your relationship to these movies. I have a very deep relationship with these movies, and I'm curious I'm assuming you saw them when they came out, but what are your thoughts on these prior to revisiting them?
Yeah, I mean, they were awesome. You know, I was a fan of Quentin Tarantino growing up. I saw Pulp Fiction way too young, and then that led to seeing Reservoir Dogs and Jackie Brown. Do you remember like the Jackie Brown and Pulp Fiction DVDs that came out that had a slip sleeve over them, but it was like a side-loading slip sleeve?
Yeah, for sure.
My older brother Ben and I went and bought those, I believe, at Target the day they came out. We bought both of them. That was really when I started developing more of a relationship with Jackie Brown. And so I was stoked about seeing Kill Bill. And my brother was in college when it came out, and he saw part one and then came back home and was dying to take me to go see it. So we went to see it in the theaters because my mom literally was like, here's $20, just get out of the house, go see Kill Bill. We got to the theater and they wouldn't sell us tickets.
Because it was rated R?
Yeah, and my brother wasn't... No, he must have been 18 at the time. Regardless. Oh, I guess at 18 you can buy a ticket for yourself, but... Wait, no. Is it 17 you can buy a ticket for yourself, but not a ticket for somebody else?
Yeah, it would be theater dependent, I think.
So I had to wait to the super second run theater in my town and see it there, but it blew my mind.
Yeah.
It's insanely gory and action, at least the first part, right? It's insanely gory and action packed, and this crazy story of revenge that you're kind of trying to figure out what's going on as it's happening. I loved this movie. And so then I was of age when part 2 came out. And so I saw that in theaters and remember honestly being a little let down by it, just because I would think I was expecting the heights of part 1 again.
Yeah.
But over time, this movie, both parts, quickly became one of my favorite in his filmography. And we got tickets for it, but you weren't able to go for whatever reason. We were able to see it at the New Beverly when I lived in LA as Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair.
Yeah.
Which was the can cut.
God, that never seems to happen again.
Why couldn't you go? Do you remember?
I think I had to work. But I've always looked for that to come back. I'd never have seen another opportunity to see it that way. Yeah, the movie was, 4 hours long, so they decided to split it in half and release them 6 months apart, so they didn't have to shorten anything. But there exists a Whole Bloody Affair cut that I think is just Tarantino's probably one of his personal prints.
Sure.
It'd be amazing if they could just drop that on physical media. I don't know what the story is, but it'd be so cool.
I would love it. Do you think it's ever going to happen? Probably not.
I would say probably not if it didn't happen with
Right
this.
now. Yeah.
When this movie came out, I was obsessed with Quentin Tarantino.
Mhm.
And I mentioned, I think on our recent Lynch episode, that I was, making short films and getting into filmmaking and stuff in high school. And David Lynch was really inspiring to me as a kind of creative spirit, but I wasn't really emulating him in what I was actually making.
Sure.
Quentin Tarantino, Kill Bill especially, is the exact opposite. Everything I was doing was exactly like that, trying to be. I was obsessed with Pulp Fiction, and then, this came out, and it was like the first one, and it was like the greatest thing I'd ever seen in my life. I was just absolutely obsessed with it and couldn't wait for part 2. I remember just like dissecting the trailer, downloading it off of the internet and just watching it obsessively. Yeah, similar to you, Sam, I think it's just such a different vibe, part 2.
Without a doubt.
The first one is very much an action movie, and the character development is sort of saved in a lot of ways for the second half. I remember loving it, but being surprised by that and kind of underwhelmed probably that it never really hit those heights again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think part 2 is inarguably the stronger of both of them.
I agree. And that's why I kind of like seeing them as one. Like when I watched them for this, I watched them the same day. I took like a 2-hour break.
Oh, cool.
But I watched them in the same day. We had a snow day in Portland. So that's when I did it.
That's awesome.
There's still so much mystery at the end of part 1 that if you're watching it for the first time, you're just kind of like, okay, like you don't really know much of what's going on. When you have all the information from part 2 and you watch part 1 again, I think part 1 gets better, but I do think part 2 is the better movie.
I think a lot of people have seen this movie that are listening to this podcast, I assume, but Kill Bill is about a member of a assassination squad called the Deadly Vipers. Her code name is Black Mamba. We also will come to know her as the Bride. She's played by Uma Thurman. This movie is about her leaving the squad and getting married and trying to have a quote unquote normal life because she's pregnant. The father of her unborn child is the leader of this assassination squad. His name is Bill. And on the day of her wedding rehearsal, Bill and the other members of the assassination team show up and assassinate everyone in the room and leave the bride, the pregnant bride, for dead. Years later, she wakes up from a coma without her baby and goes on a roaring rampage of revenge and takes out the members of this squad one at a time. The members of the Deadly Viper Assassination Squad are played by Vivica A. Fox, Lucy Liu, Michael Madsen, and Daryl Hannah. This movie's told in chapters,
but the chapters are non-linear.
In true Quentin Tarantino style.
Yes. And this is heavily inspired by a lot of Japanese cinema of the 60s and 70s, a lot of American grindhouse movies, kung fu movies, the Shaw Brothers. You get the Shaw Brothers logo as the movie opens up. There are scenes like straight up taken out of the Lady Snowblood movies.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tarantino does this with all of his movies. He highlights things that he loves and makes them his own. But this one in particular really pays a lot of homage to all of that Asian cinema.
And Sergio Leone a little bit too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say like this one feels the most referential, like right on the surface of all his movies. It's
Truly.
Very much just almost like an exercise in style.
Yeah, so the opening of this movie is a fight between Uma Thurman and Vivica A. Fox in the suburban city of Pasadena.
Yeah.
And it is very colorful, very bright and vibrant, and so crazy and loud, and people are going through bookcases and glass tables and walls. It's awesome.
They're having a knife fight in like a tiny bungalow, basically.
It's an incredibly cool way to open a movie.
The sound. Oh my God. The physicality of these movies, like all these fight sequences are so intense. Like,
yeah,
there's so much sweat, so much blood. My favorite part about that sequence is the knife fight is over because Vivica A. Fox's daughter comes home and they sort of stop fighting and they're in the kitchen. discussing the fact that they're going to fight again at dawn, right? On the beach with whatever.
No. They're going to fight at a baseball diamond at 2 a.m.
Okay.
The fight at dawn is between her and Bill.
Oh, yeah. They're setting up like, okay, we're going to postpone this. And Vivica A. Fox is making cereal for her daughter, and she grabs a cereal box inside of which is like a 44 Magnum that's hidden in the cereal box, and the cereal is called Kaboom.
Yeah.
And then she like swings this box around and shoots at Uma Thurman. And the first time I saw that, it was such a shocking, oh shit.
Well, because you're waiting, you're like, okay, it's going to cut soon, and we're going to go to the night, and we're going to see them fight at this baseball diamond.
And we never see it.
We never see it. There's a making of special feature for each movie on these discs. In that, he talks about challenging himself to basically become an action director with the first movie. You know, the ending of part 1 is this famous, I don't know how long it is. It's at least a half an hour action sequence where the bride fights a Yakuza gang called the Crazy 88. So it's 88 samurai fighters versus the bride. And, you know, they're all dressed in black and white suits, and she's wearing a yellow Bruce Lee inspired like motorcycle outfit.
Yeah, it's like a tracksuit.
Yeah.
This is Tarantino. Not only is he like clearly paying homage to all these filmmakers and films that he loves, but it's him kind of like being his most experimental self in terms of the way that the movie is made. At least in part 1, there's a scene where it goes into anime, and then during the fight with the Crazy 88s that Kurt's talking about, it goes from color to black and white, back to color. Like it's kind of all over the place in terms of his style. It doesn't really look, I mean, it's so clearly a Quentin Tarantino movie, and yet at the same time, it doesn't really look like a lot of his other movies look or feel.
Yeah, and it's this really a giant evolution, I think, in his filmography as far as what he's capable of.
Mm-hmm.
He talks on this interview on the disc, the best film directors are action directors in terms of talent, according to him. And this really shows that he can. It's this unbelievable sequence, choreographed fighting, just so creative and engaging and violent and stylized. It's so amazing. The end of part 1.
Yeah.
To his point, showed us he can kind of do it all.
Mm-hmm.
Has he ever really done that again? He's never done anything like that again, has he?
No, because it's a lot of like, well, and the other thing is that, he's so well known for like shootouts at this point, and this is all sword play.
And dialogue, and it's basically silent,
Yeah. The scene where she runs up the banister the first time is so awesome, dude.
Yeah.
You kind of get the violence of Kill Bill at the end of Django, but
right.
It's like a 2-minute shootout.
But this is like one of the best action sequences I can think of. It's iconic. It's iconic.
Yes. I'm sitting here watching the movie and just kind of, it's all gearing up to get to that point.
Right.
And I think, so, she fights the Crazy 88s and then has to fight
Lucy Liu.
O-Ren Ishii is her name in the movie. And
God, Lucy Liu is fucking awesome in this.
Dude, that scene in general, I think is the coolest part of part 1. The snow, but very kind of fake looking background, but it looks so beautiful at the same time. It's an incredible sword fight. The blood splatter across the snow. It's just incredible.
At the end of part 1, Black Mamba, aka the bride, goes one-on-one against O-Ren Ishii in this kind of Japanese garden covered in snow at night.
One of the coolest things about like being really into physical media and following these smaller boutique labels is that I've been introduced to a lot of foreign cinema that I wouldn't have seen otherwise or would have had a harder time finding.
Mm-hmm.
Arrow is really good about highlighting a lot of Asian cinema or Italian cinema. They've put out a couple movies with this guy, Sonny Chiba, who, when I first saw Kill Bill Volume 1 or 2, I had no idea who he was. And when I was watching part 1, his name popped up and I was like, oh my God, is he Hanzo? And he is. And having that realization being like, Arrow has put these movies out, so I've seen a couple of his movies because the titles looked intriguing and the cover art looked intriguing. So developing my own relationship with Sonny Chiba and then coming back to a movie that I know and love and having that relationship kind of like fully realized is just such an awesome and cool thing to have in your back pocket. It completely changed the way that I watched those scenes between the two of them. And I just love that feeling.
Yeah, Sonny Chiba plays Hattori Hanzo, who is like a Japanese sword maker.
The Japanese sword maker.
He makes the bride her samurai sword that she fights this Crazy 88 army with.
I love how he can do tropes in a way that are like we kind of recognize as tropes, but they feel new and different. Because it's like, here's a sword maker who's now a sushi chef, and he refuses to make weapons that can kill people. And then she comes to him and says, like, I need you to make me one more sword because I have to kill Bill. And he's like, no problem. I took a blood oath against doing this, but I hate Bill so much that I will do this for you.
And the propping of the sword is so good. It's so beautiful. Part 1 it's really fun. I thought that some of it was a little too cute on revisit. Some of the writing I found a little too cute.
I actively hate that line when she's like, did you really think it would be that easy? And the bride says, for a minute there, I did.
Yeah. Part 1 is just very stylized and you don't have a lot of kind of emotional attachment. All that stuff kind of comes into part 2. So it's interesting that you watch it all in one sitting. Kim and I watched it over 2 nights. Up until the Crazy 88 fight, it was one of those experiences where I hadn't seen it in a long time. It meant so much to me growing up. And I watched it again in the context of his larger filmography that we have now after all these years. And I was like, whoa, it feels so simple and a little empty. Part 1. The ending is amazing, but leading up to it, I was like, all these things that felt so revolutionary and whatever to me at the time. I look at something like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood or Inglourious Bastards, Django, like those just feel so much richer as far as like the writing goes.
Sure.
I was a little disappointed with Volume 1. And then Volume 2, I thought was just much stronger, much more emotional, and kind of reshaped how I was feeling about Part 1. So,
which is like why I think they should be watched
exactly
in a sitting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's also highlight that, like, in the can cut, in the whole bloody affair, like the very last thing you see, and I think we've talked about this on the show before, but the very last thing you see and hear in Part 1 is Bill saying, does she know her kid's still alive?
Yeah.
Whereas if you take that out, you are on the journey with the bride being like, yeah, you got to kill all these people because they killed your like
unborn child.
Yeah. Not only did they destroy your wedding, but they killed your unborn child. And then the reveal that the kid is still alive at the end of Part 2 is that much bigger of a reveal, not only for the character, but for the audience as well.
Yeah. You're right there with her.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's too bad. It's too bad.
It's such a bummer, dude. And it feels like an ADR line too. That's the other thing too, where it's like, just get it out of here.
So yeah, Part 2 is much more about the bride's relationship to Bill, who is a romantic partner of hers, the father of this unborn child. And we see her going after the last kind of 2 members of the Deadly Vipers, played by Michael Madsen and Daryl Hannah. I think maybe my favorite sequence on this viewing of both of these movies is after the bride goes after Michael Madsen's character. He has buried her alive. And while she's in this coffin underground with no way out, a chapter starts that flashes back to her training with a guy named Pai Mei. And we see this entire sequence of her learning how to fight like a samurai. And it involves, the classic kind of break a board with your hand action movie training sequence trope. And he trains the bride to punch through these wood blocks with her hand just being like inches away from it, like without being able to wind up your arm and punch really hard. She can break through these things at a finger's distance. Like just her knuckle can just like move 3 inches and break through because her fists are that strong and her will is that strong.
I would like to highlight what I was just talking about in terms of like how he chooses different styles and ways to like tell this story. That this chapter, the Pai Mei chapter, is like, I don't know if it's a different film stock or if they shot it on 16 versus 35, but
right.
It looks like a 70s Shaw Brothers movie. The colors are a little bit blown out.
Yep.
It's a little grainier, but it still looks awesome. And it feels like a Quentin Tarantino movie, but he's so good at highlighting little aspects of things that inspired him and then bringing it to his own work.
And like little snap zooms and
yeah. It's so good. It's such a cool, and I remember seeing this sequence for the first time and being bored with it. And I did not feel that way at all this time around.
Yeah, no way. But you've been left with her, buried alive, and you go through this whole other chapter, and then it ends and comes back to her in the grave, and she busts her way out of this coffin using this punching technique because she has no room in the coffin to wind up her arm, but she knows how to break through with just her fist. and then like climbs her way through the dirt and bursts out of this grave. And it's all to this Ennio Morricone track.
Yeah.
And it's just like, it's unbelievable. It's like a 20-minute sequence, you know, involving that middle chapter with just the payoff is so good. Because you're truly like, how the fuck is she going to get out of this?
And then like kind of into one of his like funniest little bits.
Where she's walking across the highway.
Yeah. She like walks so like across the street from this graveyard is like a diner.
So good.
And she's like covered in dirt and her chest is all bloody because she's gotten shot. And she like sits down at the diner very like properly. And she's like, may I have a glass of water? One last thing that we should highlight in part 2 is just the incredible, I mean, you were talking about the physicality of the movies in general, but the incredible fight between Uma Thurman and Daryl Hannah in a mobile home.
Yeah.
So good.
They keep trying to draw their swords and the walls are too close together, so they can't draw their swords. People get like thrown through walls. There's shit everywhere. It's like flying.
And a black mamba snake.
Yep.
As well.
At one point, this is the gnarliest thing in this entire movie. The entire 2 movies is that Uma Thurman, I believe, throws disgusting Michael Madsen's spittoon full of tobacco chew at Daryl Hannah. And it hits her like square in the face. And it is so gross, dude. When it happened, I was like, oh, God. But it's like an awesome close quarters fight.
We'll spoil it. Fuck it. The end of it is so amazing. The way the tone shifts. Like it's this, cartoony thing where they're like swords are hitting the walls because they can't open them. And
the score is like super loud at that point too.
Yeah. There's this like, they finally square off down this tiny hallway. They both have their swords drawn and there's this intense buildup. Daryl Hannah, we should say, has an eye patch. Mm-hmm. She has one eye because Pai Mei has ripped out her eye while she's been trained.
Because she was disrespectful.
She was disrespectful to Pai Mei. And they charged at each other and Uma Thurman rips out her other eye. And it goes from this like, very cartoony build up fun sequence to Daryl Hannah eyeless screaming on the floor of this bathroom.
Like writhing.
Yeah. Flailing, writhing, screaming. Like you hear her like hoarse voice because she's just screamed everything she's got out of her.
Yeah.
The shift from the fun to just this agony of this woman. And also Bill. Let's talk about Bill. Bill's played by David Carradine. Mm-hmm. We don't see his face in part 1.
Not at all.
Yet they showed it in the trailer for part 2, which I thought was a little lame, which is on this disc.
Trailers suck, dude.
What's his story? He comes from...
Kung Fu was like the big show he was on.
Yep.
And that's, I think, Tarantino very much casting him because of that.
Yep, exactly. He's not someone I think I had ever seen before at this time. And
again, a guy that I have a lot of relationship with now because of all these like lower budget movies that get Blu-ray or 4K releases.
Awesome. Yeah. This part was written for Warren Beatty, is the rumor.
Whoa, really?
Oh, that's shocking.
Yeah.
I'm so happy it wasn't him.
Yeah.
Totally. David Carradine's amazing in this. His voice is so great.
Mm-hmm.
Just his cadence of speech, and it's so memorable. And you like him. He's so sort of seductive.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
And that adds so much to part 2.
Yes.
Because by the time she finds him, her daughter is still alive. He's parenting her, and they seem to have an amazing relationship. And it's just an emotional ending, They finally come to blows, and the way they manage to make that a complicated, conflicting experience for you as an audience member by the time you get there after all this 4 hours or whatever. It's really, really great.
They come to blows while both sitting in chairs too.
Yeah.
It's like a phenomenal, cool action scene that no one is standing up for.
And it's so emotional.
Yeah.
They've hashed it out by this point verbally.
It's incredible, dude. Like it like truly is. I understand why it was cut into 2, but it is a bummer that is not screened as 1.
Yeah. Which again is kind of what I was hoping for this release, which we should talk about. Yeah. So I'd say the biggest positive of these 4Ks for me is the color. The HDR is so good.
I was just going to say the same thing.
They are such colorful movies, and that stuff really shines.
That anime sequence is awesome.
Totally. However, my reaction, especially to putting the first one on, I was so disappointed with how these looked.
Yeah, you texted me almost immediately.
It's not very sharp. There isn't really like the grain.
There's almost no grain to it, honestly.
Yeah. And there are parts where like things look, it almost has like a smudged noise reduction to it, where it's like extra soft. And I'll say 2 things. One is we watched the first one and I spent the whole time being a little annoyed, more than a little annoyed. And then I put on the Blu-ray that comes with it immediately after and just like compared the scene where they arrive in Tokyo. And without question, the 4K is an insane upgrade.
Okay.
Massive upgrade.
Because that was going to be my question to you was, are you going to keep your blues now?
Oh, no. It looks so much better, primarily because of the color. But I researched this and, the first thing I found was that Tarantino was more or less involved or at least approved of these transfers.
Okay.
But the reason that these movies look the way they do, my limited understanding of it at least, is these, of course, were shot on 35, but they went through what's called like a 2K DI, digital intermediate process.
Okay.
So they shot it on film, then they scanned that film digitally at 2K. So this is 2003, right? That this first one came out. There was no 4K yet.
Yeah. But you're saying that this process happened for this Blu-ray or this happened when they were done?
When they made the movie.
Okay.
So they scanned the camera negative at 2K. So at 1080, basically. Then they took that and that's what they color corrected. So they used digital tools, the digital intermediate process to color correct this movie, of which there are a lot of kind of stylized choices in, like there's scenes in black and white where someone's eyes are in color, things like that you can't do photochemically. You need to do digitally. Nowadays, they would do that, but they would scan it at a high resolution, 4K or higher. But this was basically finished at 2K. So this disc is upscaling 2K to 4K, where most of the things we're talking about on the show, buying on 4K, are native 4K. So there's a 4K or a higher scan of ideally the camera negative that's being presented in 4K or down-resed to 4K as opposed to 2K being up-resed to 4K.
Yeah, a lot of the movies we buy are like a new transfer of the camera negative. So they're scanning it in and then upscaling it or down, I guess if it's film, probably a downscale to 4K, but it's a new scan of that thing.
So this is a faithful reproduction of Kill Bill. It's just in order to have it, match the standard of what's capable or whatever of 4K Blu-rays, they would have to go back to the camera negative and basically redo the color. So it would have to be like a 4K restoration of Kill Bill in order to see it at native 4K.
Which I'm sure in 20 years we'll get.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because it's there. It's just... it's not here.
Well, and these discs are a little bare. Like there's absolutely no new special features. It's all...
Not only that, but it's straight up in standard definition, all these special features.
I know. I started watching one of the makings of, and I was like, no, I don't care about this.
Before you watch any of these special features on every single one, which there aren't many, it's like a making of, and then some trailers.
A music video.
Yeah. But they all start with a kind of disclaimer title card that says the following bonus content is provided in its original format and quality. Some content may exhibit film defects and imperfections in playback. So it's like all standard def, doesn't even fill the screen, when they're cutting to like clips from the film.
It's a bit whack.
It's exactly as it was on DVD. It's whack for sure.
Yeah. It's just a bummer. These are big movies. The audience would have been there for, and I know that producing new special features costs the studio money, but these sold out almost immediately. They were like hard to find after the first week they were released. I mean, they're back in stock now, but it's not like the audience isn't there for 3 Quentin Tarantino 4Ks that have come out on the same day.
Yeah. So, I mean, in January, we saw Jackie Brown come out and an Arrow version of Inglourious Bastards. I believe Inglourious Bastards is the same situation. It's an upscaled 4K.
I believe you're
probably
right.
For the exact same reasons. However, Jackie Brown, 97? They weren't doing that 2K DI process. That film was presumably finished photochemically, and that is a 4K original camera negative scanned disc.
Have you watched that transfer yet?
I haven't, but it's supposed to be great.
Okay.
So this isn't a perfect release, but definitely an upgrade, and happy to have it.
It's the best we're going to get right now.
Yeah. So there you go. Kill Bill.
Before we go to wishes, I'm going to put you on the spot. Out of the movies that he has directed, what is your Tarantino ranking? Or at least what is the top and what is the bottom?
Off the top of my head, I would say Pulp Fiction, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Django, Jackie Brown, Inglourious Bastards, Kill Bill, Death Proof, Hateful Eight.
You forgot Reservoir Dogs.
Reservoir Dogs would go after Kill Bill.
Okay. So Hateful Eight is the bottom.
Hateful Eight is the bottom.
And Death Proof is one up from that.
Yeah. The last 15 minutes of Death Proof is above everything.
That's for damn sure. But yeah, we mirror on a lot of that.
There are days where Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is number one for me, for sure.
Yeah.
Pulp Fiction is just like,
It's just the thing. It's like, it's the one.
Yeah.
It's the one. It has to be.
Yeah. Okay, Sam, before we go, it's time to put wishes out into the physical media universe for movies on formats that do not yet exist. Here we go. I wish for Grindhouse on 4K.
I wish for an Arrow Video 4K of Django Unchained.
Haven't you already wished for that, though?
Yeah, I did, but we're doing it anyway.
Okay.
As Kim pointed out, I have already wished for this movie, but I'm still wishing for this movie. I had it on Blu-ray in a stupidly large case that drove me so insane, I sold it.
Threw it out a window.
And I would love to revisit it. I loved this movie when it came out. I just thought it was so wild and fun and such a crazy time. I loved his kind of revisionist history era that he found himself in.
Yeah. It's been a minute since I've watched it, but I love this movie. Leo, baby.
The push in on Leo when he turns towards the camera is so good.
The snap zoom.
Yeah.
Grindhouse is Quentin Tarantino's kind of double feature collaboration with Robert Rodriguez, emulating Grindhouse cinema. Robert Rodriguez's installment is sort of a zombie,
gross out
action. Tarantino's is Death Proof, which stars Kurt Russell as a murderous stuntman Mike, who kills people with his kind of reinforced car. It's not a perfect movie, but the sequences in the car are just nail biting and some of Tarantino's, I think, finest work.
And the Kurt Russell performance in general is just next level.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Arrow, this seems like perfect for them.
Yep.
Give us a big old release with fold out posters and postcards and this and that and everything else. Like, this seems right up their alley.
I was thinking about this and Sin City while, thinking about this DI situation, the 2K DI, and I wonder if they would both have that problem. I could almost guarantee you that Sin City would.
I was just going to say Sin City without a doubt.
Because that was probably shot
digitally.
On 1080.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was probably 1080.
The Blu-ray looks good, though.
Okay. I haven't watched that in a while.
The thing, though, it's such a weird looking movie to begin with.
Right.
There's like no real grain. Isn't it all digital grain to begin with? Because he wanted it to look like exactly like the comic book, and the comic book's kind of...
It probably doesn't have any grain, I would imagine.
Yeah.
But it would be digital, yeah. But Grindhouse is interesting because I'm sure Robert Rodriguez's installment is digital and Tarantino's is definitely film. Grindhouse has a very intentionally grainy look.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd be really interested what that would look like on 4K. But yeah, Arrow would be perfect.
Sign me up. And speaking of Robert Rodriguez, we will be back next week with Robert Rodriguez's The Faculty.
Yeah, we will.
With our good friend Sammy Smart.
Can't wait for that.
God, I forgot he directed it.
Oh, hell yeah, dude.
I haven't seen it, so I'm very excited to watch this.
We're watching it tonight, Kim.
I just watched it the other night. Oh, it's so good.
Can't wait.
Okay, thank you all for listening. We appreciate you so much.
Yeah, please like and subscribe. Give us a review. Follow us on Instagram at PTMoviePod.
A big thank you to Patrick LeBon for our music. Thank you to Kimberly for producing. And we'll see you next week for The Faculty.